All right, one more tutorial for what we can do with our finalized droids. After I've added my materials and textures, I want to be able to group this guy to make him move around and then to export him as an STL file. So I'm going to show you how to do both of those in this video. The first thing I want to do, you can tell over here, I've got a ton of layers. These are all the little objects that make up my droid. And if I try to move one of them around, problems that's going to happen is it's only going to move that one part and it's going to leave everything else behind. So I want to group this guy together. The best way to do that is let's take a look at him from up above. And I want to make sure that I'm grabbing him. Let's do this real quick. I'm going to go to my render settings and switch back to Eevee so that it's nice and easy. It's not using a lot of memory here. I'm going to look at it from the top view. And I don't want to grab my lights by accident here. That's why I'm moving this direction. I'm going to drag over all the pieces that make up my droid here. So let's go like this, being careful not to grab the light by mistake. And you can see now they're all highlighted over here in my list. And if I right click it, I can move all these pieces to a collection. A collection is like making a group. Okay, so I'm going to move to collection, a new collection, and I'm going to call this droid and hit OK. And over in my list, you'll see that all of those layers have now been moved into their own little box called droid. And all the lights and cameras and everything else is getting left up here in the original collection. Okay. Now, the nice thing about having it in a group is that when I want to move this around, I can grab all the pieces at once. All I have to do is right click the word droid and select objects. And now everything is selected. Okay. So if I pull on it, he's going to move all together. Okay. Pretty cool. So let's add a little bit of movement to this dude. I'm going to tilt my camera up here so that I can see my x-axis and my y-axis. And down along the bottom of your screen, some of you might have noticed you already have this little timeline feature. What you do is you put your mouse over it and you pull it up to see your timeline. And if you don't see it there, this little widget in the corner, you're going to select timeline and that'll bring it up. Okay, timeline works just like After Effects. You've got frames of animation here. So there's 10 frames, 20 frames, all the way up to 250 frames. So starting at 10 frames, I'm going to say to myself, where's my droid? Let's move him back here away from the starting point. I can move my camera out a little bit. I'll move him way back here. And I'm going to set a keyframe on him by pressing the letter I. I got to make sure my mouse is up in this window when I do this. I for location and rotation. Okay. So now there's a keyframe that is going to mark where he is at one frame. Okay. Now let's move our playhead forward. Let's see, 30 seconds. Or 30 frames. That's 1 second. 60 frames is 2 seconds. Let's say by 60 frames, he has moved to the middle. Okay. And again, I'm going to press I for location or rotation. And now I've created some movement where my robot's going to move from far away to close up. Okay. Maybe when he gets to the finish line, we have him kind of back up a little bit. So I'll move ahead 10 frames and I'm going to move him back slightly. And let's even have him rotate a little bit. I'll do R for rotate, Z for the vertical axis, and I'll turn him. And then we'll move him back over to like right here. Okay, and let's set a keyframe, I for location rotation. Let's watch how this looks. If I run my playhead back to the beginning and I hit the play button, he's going to scooch up, and he's going to back up, and he stops for a minute. Okay, let's have it go another 10 frames. He moves down and back to the middle, but this time he's going to rotate a little bit more, so he's like off to the side here. He's showing off his side view. And I'm going to press I, location and rotation. Let's play it back. So he's going to go boop, 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 boop. Okay. And if he's moving too fast, just space out your keyframes, right? You have a whole bunch of them here. Ooh, I got a ton actually. Yikes for every single object that's in there. Maybe I won't move these after all. And then we'll just have him go a little bit further. Maybe by like 140 seconds, he's going to move off the screen in this direction. Okay. And again, I'll press I, location, rotation. And if I run it back, he is going to do. Oh, and his legs actually came apart there. I must not have grabbed all the keyframes. So you can see this can get a little tricky pretty fast. If you run into mistakes, just use Control Z to go back a step, and you can delete those keyframes off your timeline and take it back to a point where everything was still working just fine. Let's have him go right here. I'll have him move this way and rotate Z so he's sideways. And then we'll set a keyframe, I location, and then we'll go forward a little bit more and have him scooch off I. Hopefully his legs are going to travel with him this time. Okay, so there he goes off the screen. Now, remember, once you've keyframed animation, all we've done is move the robot. We haven't actually moved the camera at all. So if I move my camera view to like front on like this and hit play, it's still going to do the same rotation. He's going to roll up into the light, back up, turn, and then he's going to zoom off the screen. Okay. So animation is pretty easy to do, especially if you use After Effects before. You'll get the hang of it really quickly. But play around with that, especially if you've gotten done a little bit early and you want to see some animation for your droid. If you do save it, I would save it with a different file name so that it doesn't save over your original. All right, guys, have fun with that.